NS to a Southern breakfast. I don't think it'll be Waffle House down in Atlanta, GA. This guy is in Atlanta every day. He covered the Bulldogs of Athens, now has moved over to Atlanta to cover all things Falcons for The Athletic. You can follow him at Jason H. Butt. A little background with the Ravens as well, and a little golf stroke out on the front of his Twitter. I would say that's a little premature for the Falcons to be golfing at this point, but it certainly has not been the year you set up to campaign in your first year out. This is disappointing for the Falcons organization to be where they are right now, and obviously they've been decimated by injuries, maybe more so than any other team in the league.
Yeah, going into the year, obviously there were a lot of people that were putting the Falcons on a trendy Super Bowl pick kind of trajectory, and like you said, the injuries occurred, and now sitting at 4-7 with no real improvements on the defensive end, with an offense that hasn't been able to run the ball at a consistent rate that it would like to. They very well could be golfing, going down to Florida in early January, and just kind of waiting and seeing what the rest of the league does, particularly maybe even the Ravens. With how the Ravens have been able to play this season at times, and it just 4-7. The Falcons would obviously need a lot of help and would have to win out. And based on what we've seen, that's likely not going to happen. And so, very disappointing year for sure for this organization, and not something that anybody really thought that they would endure. But that's the reality. The NFL can be unpredictable, especially back in August. You think you know what's going to happen, and then the exact opposite takes place, and that's really the kind of in the story in this Atlanta team this year.
Well, it's a dangerous game from the Ravens' perspective in a lot of ways. First off, I don't know if you heard, we have a little quarterback controversy going on here, which, that has not been a fueler for my career here over 23 years talking about the Ravens. We haven't had a lot of weeks around here where we're sitting around in the middle of the week saying, who's going to be the quarterback this week? And certainly that's been the case with Joe Flacco here for well over a decade, and Super Bowl MVP and all that stuff. So we have all of that going on, but there's also the danger of Julio Jones and Matt Ryan and where this defense is and how it's been picked apart. And I watched your outfit on Thanksgiving night there, and it didn't curdle my eggnog afterward, but a dangerous team, but not a very good team. And certainly defensively, I have no idea what the Ravens have up their sleeve, and I don't think anybody, Dan Quinn, does on your side of the fence either. Anything is possible with the offense on Sunday if Flacco's cleared to play and be healthy, that there will be two different kinds of offenses the Ravens can employ, one that's good and one that's okay. They run the ball really well behind Lamar Jackson, but tell me about the Falcons defense and what they would fear the most, Jason.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because Dan Quinn yesterday said the one thing about this team that concerns him the most is the fact that they're getting the Ravens on a week where they really don't know if it's going to be Flacco or Lamar Jackson, so that forces them to actually spend the extra time. You know how coaches will say they don't want to give away game plan information, but it really doesn't matter, or injury information, I have to say, but it really doesn't matter because the scheme fits generally the players. Well, in this case, obviously, the two quarterbacks are so different that they actually do have to spend a lot more time figuring out, what to do if Lamar's quarterback, what to do if Joe's the quarterback. The Falcons' defense has struggled against every type of quarterback not named Alex Smith this year. So that's really the problem, is that they would love to face Alex Smith every week because Alex Smith was a check down, a guy not going to take the deep shot. I think even with a guy like Lamar Jackson, his threat to run is so dangerous, but you're going to get the occasional throw that's going to keep you honest. Obviously, Joe can throw the deep ball. They have burners, and John Brown. This Falcons defense, they're without two safeties, so they're going with a guy, second-year player Demonte Casey, who actually, I have to prove that. I have to go back and check. I'm pretty sure he's still leading the league in interceptions at 6. He's been a bright spot for this defense, but he still has a lot to learn in terms of communication and being in the right spot at all times. Their linebackers, Deion Jones has a chance to come back, and if he does come back this week, that would be huge for the Falcons, because their coverage underneath and being able to defend the run has been awful in the middle of the field. Without Deion Jones, they just haven't had anybody who could remotely replace him, or even a combination of players who could remotely replace him. I can remember back when I was in Baltimore with you guys covering the Ravens, and guys would get hurt, and players could step up and at least fill the roles admirably, or or patchwork together a defensive scheme or a defense within the scheme to make it work. And the Falcons have not been able to do that this year. They really haven't had the depth show up the way they needed to. So if Deion Jones is not able to come back this week, you're looking at a Ravens offense that you saw what the Saints did in the run game. I think Gus Edwards could very well do something similar. Whether it's Joe Flacco or Lamar Jackson, I think you'll find some open receivers, especially underneath. The Falcons defense has not had a good season. It was supposed to be a strength, but having the injuries, especially with the two safeties and Deion Jones, those have just absolutely hurt this team more than anyone could have imagined on that side of the ball. And it's one reason why they statistically are the worst, one of the worst in the league. When it comes to stopping teams in almost every statistical category.
Jason Butt, it can be followed out on Twitter as well as at The Athletic ATL. He is in Atlanta, Georgia. You can also follow him on Twitter at Jason H. Butt, as well as his golf game and lots of things Falcons. And dangerous offensive team here, though, right? I mean, they could turn this thing into a track meet in a hurry. Give me a little primer on that, because it really does feel like a wasted season in the prime of the prime where, Julio Jones and Matt Ryan are among the elite players at their position. As we see the Joe Flacco era apparently coming to an end here, there was a time where Steve Bisciotti wanted Matt Ryan to be the quarterback and couldn't get high enough up on draft day to get him, and quote-unquote settled for Joe Flacco around here the last 11 years. They're paying those guys a lot of money to win football games, and they're doing their part, but it's it's more multiple than that when you have the kind of injuries you've had on the defensive side, but it does feel like a waste of their prime.
It does in terms of this season. Look at the numbers Matt Ryan has put up this year. He's been top 5 in yards for really since the third. I think about around the third week of the season is when he started getting into that category, and he's been very consistent when it comes to statistics. But really, I think on the offensive end, even though the passing game has been there, they have not been a good running team or a good short yardage team, and that's really hurt them late in games in some of those track meets. The Ravens, for whatever reason, are unable to, and I think there's a lot of film the last 3 weeks that will benefit Baltimore in terms of being able to keep a lot of the plays underneath. The Falcons really want to hit you with explosive plays deep down the field, whether it's Julio or Calvin Ridley even, and moving the chains with Mohamed Sanu. Those plays have been taken away for the most part over the last few weeks, and that's why you've seen scores. Their scores kind of lowered a little bit. You saw them that they weren't able to. Granted, turnovers against New Orleans are probably a bigger issue there, but against Dallas did a great job. Cleveland did a great job in terms of keeping everything underneath, and that really frustrated the Falcons because they want to be an explosive, aggressive team. And then you combine that with their inability to run the ball. I have not seen a team, whether it's been covering the NFL or covering college football, I have never seen a team that I've covered up close fail as miserably at getting a yard or 2 yards in these short yardage third down situations like the Falcons have this year. Their best play is putting Sanu at quarterback and running the Wildcat to get a yard. They're just lining up. They can't run power football for whatever reason. They're an outside scheme that really lacks the power personnel. The inability to get a yard to churn out first downs over and over in the run game has really affected this team over the last few weeks in terms of being able to offer balance and actually make their play-action game efficient. Therefore, I think that Baltimore has enough on film to where when having one of the better defenses in the NFL, I think there's enough there to be able to prevent Atlanta's offense from striking the deep ball, because that's really where Atlanta wants to make you pay, and it's hitting explosive plays in the pass game down the field, going vertical. They haven't been able to really do that in the last 3 weeks, and that's really been a big part in contributing why they've lost all 3 of those games.
So you're saying there won't be an 11-play drive where all they do is run 11 straight plays like we had last week here, right?
No, Atlanta does not have personnel to do anything resembling that whatsoever.
Jason Butt is here. He is from the Athletic ATL in Atlanta, Georgia. All of our WNST coverage brought to you by our friends at Box Hill Pizzeria. The best crab cakes in Harford County can now be shipped anywhere for the holidays. You know about the remodel up there, the BHP, the new look if you've been in. If you haven't been, by all means, stop by for a pizza hero or one of the delicious crab cakes that they ship anywhere. You can't get them in Atlanta unless you go to boxhillpizzeria.com and ship them. Also, our friends at Strategic Factory marketing, printing, promotional goods of all kinds, all in one shop. I'm wearing the shirt today. Keith's coming on the program this week. We appreciate their support and sponsorship as well. Our friends at Curio, our new sponsor, Timonium, York Road, just south of Timonium Road. Holistic wellness, spa, and cannabis education for anybody out there on the medicinal side. If you want to learn, it's all new. It's a wild, wild world. Trust the folks at Curio to take you there. Brian is there. He'll educate you. You can learn more online, and they're very, very easy to find here during the holidays at Curio and CurioWellness.com. Our friends at LifeBridge Health Sports Medicine Institute also joining us this week. Dr. Craig Bennett will be here to talk orthopedics, the new game plan for sports-related injuries, backed by the surgeons and the doctors who treat the pro athletes. Cal Ripken's on the billboards, and they are at Foundry Row in Owings Mills. Looking forward to talking to the docs this week, as much as looking forward to talking to Alex Lewis and Matt Skura of the Ravens Tuesday night at Pat Rick's in Essex. Show starts at 7:30, swabbing for the bone marrow registry. And then on Wednesday night, we are in Bel Air at Buffalo Wild Wings, eating wings, drinking beer, and watching the Terps take on UVA. It's like old times back in the ACC and my days of running around Georgia Tech there in Midtown. Jason Butt ran around out in Athens at the 40 Watt Club chasing the Bulldogs. And how about them dogs for a few years after the Ravens? He's now on the Falcons beat in Atlanta. Dude, I want to get off the Falcons and just kind of go wild card here with you. How many years were you on the Bulldogs beat down there?
For 3 years. Yeah,
so you've been down
3 years.
Yeah,
it's kind of wild.
You've been down there a little while, and the Braves have moved around, and now the Falcons are in a new stadium. I'm going to be living down there. I mean, I'm going to be there almost long enough to vote. I'm going to be there 10 days in January and February. What am I going to see in the new brave world of the Falcons downtown and a new building? Elton John's in town this week. I'm expecting to see a sort of different look for Atlanta. I'm used to seeing the old Georgia Dome down there the last 20 years and Turner Field as well.
I tell you what, man, this new stadium is pretty cool in terms of from a media perspective. So you'll really like the press box. The food, for whatever reason, is really good. My understanding is the Georgia Dome food was not good, and but you'll enjoy that. You'll enjoy all the sights around the building. But man, I'll tell you what, they got too much going on, and the fans don't sit in their seats, and it makes for terrible television and a terrible vantage point for it. It's kind of disappointing, actually. I was, not to get off track here. When I was
don't get off. I want to get off track. I mean, your team's not interesting. I'm like, hey, you know what? Unless they beat us on Sunday, I'll be calling you on Monday. Like, what the hell happened, Jay? Right.
Right. Yeah. I probably won't have any answers if that happens, to be honest.
But I'm looking for the experience because I've experienced so many. Right. Dude, I was at Fulton County Stadium the night Layritz hit the home runs, right? Like, I had Ryan Klesko dumping champagne all over me while Deion Sanders was assaulting, Tim McCarver in the corner. I got a lot of memories in Atlanta. I mean, the Terps cut the nets down in the Georgia Dome, right? And now it's kind of gone. Right. It's a little weird.
Yeah, right? It's crazy. So where the Georgia Dome was tailgate parking lot. They have this bridge that you walk over, and It really is a cool stadium, and what's really wild is that for Atlanta United soccer games, they pack 70,000 plus people into that stadium, and it gets excited, it gets rowdy, it gets nuts. And then for Falcons games, fans, it's maybe the worst fan atmosphere in the NFL because Falcons fans, for whatever reason, they go for the social atmosphere. They go to the bars inside the stadiums. They have this DJ kind of platform that overlooks the stadium, and a lot of them stand over there, and you just see pockets of empty seats everywhere.
Hey, man, where are you from originally? I mean, I know you through the Ravens and stuff, but I don't know your are you from the South?
Oh, yeah. Can you hear it in my voice?
Yeah, I can, but I didn't know if it was adopted or, like whether you picked it back up or whatnot. It is fascinating. All these years I've been doing this, right? Like from back in the 90s. And, I remember landing in Memphis, Tennessee and in Nashville when the Ravens played at Vanderbilt. I remember going to Atlanta in the early days when Stoney Case was throwing touchdown passes down at the Georgia Dome to Brandon Stokely and Justin Armour and whatnot. I remember driving out to Athens. I remember seeing games at Georgia Tech. I remember leaving Jacksonville to go watch the Terps play in Tallahassee. I've seen games at Ole Miss. I've seen games at Alabama. But it really is amazing in Atlanta because there's no other big city in the South. Everyone's drawn there, and they love their Auburn. They love their Mississippi State. They love their Gators or their Bulldogs or whatever it is. And it's totally different than here where everybody loves the Ravens or the Redskins, and nobody gives a rat's ass about the Terps, one way or another, really. And I would even say to some degree Virginia football is a little bit of that way with the Redskins, or Virginia Tech has more of a rabidity to it because people are 300 miles from a city, and that's the way it rolls. But in Atlanta, it's always felt to me like the Falcons are sort of the side dish that you go and tailgate and put on a Michael Vick jersey or a Matt Ryan jersey, or whatever it is, and you don't really live and die with the Falcons. And I feel like much more so than other places, the Falcons have an urban crowd that was built in with Michael Vick in an urban center, and I know you've had all sorts of voting shenanigans and stuff going on down there with black and white like every other place in America. But I've always felt like the Falcons were much more of an urban fan base than any other NFL team from what I see in stadiums from when I've been there. And I just feel like there's a social element to going to a Falcons game that's completely different than the way it is for the Jets,
Oh, it's really the entire league. I can't think of another team that. The Atlanta Hawks are the same. Like they've built the new State Farm Arena, or renovated it, I should say, for basically almost after Mercedes-Benz Stadium, where you go and it's an event and you're networking, you're doing business, you're doing all this other stuff, and the game is almost secondary at times. And what's interesting, you bring up all the people who love the college football. This is definitely SEC country down here, and people love college football for whatever reason. I think you go to anywhere else, even in the Midwest where Michigan, Ohio State have been so good for so long, and they have devoted fan bases, those people up there are more interested in the Browns, Bengals, Lions, Vikings, those teams in the NFC North. This is the one region in the country where it seems like the SEC, for whatever reason, college football is more important than the NFL. And sure, you do have obviously an urban crowd and that kind of atmosphere where maybe a different type of fan base that's not as devoted to the actual NFL team, but there's also the element of Atlanta being a transplant city where you have so many different people that have moved in. When the Cowboys play, actually it was 2 weeks ago when the Cowboys came. There were probably 35% of the fans were Cowboys fans. They were very audible at the end of the game when they were kicking the game-winning field goal. I can remember. I remember watching when the Packers came years ago. I think in the playoffs when the Falcons. I think they were the 1 seed in the playoffs, and they were playing in the divisional round against the Packers in a wild card game, and the Packers just came in, blew the socks off the Falcons, and all of a sudden you saw on TV how many Packers fans were coming down to the lower bowl. There's a lot of transplants in the area, so you get a lot of visitor crowds that kind of sneak into Atlanta. It's just for whatever reason, UGA football, having covered them for 3 years, that's the number one ticket in Georgia. That's what everybody's drawn to first. The Falcons are second, and then every other sports team kind of fills. And really, honestly, the Atlanta Braves are probably second. Now that I say that, it's really the Atlanta Braves, then probably the Falcons number 3, and then everything else kind of falls in behind that. And then, of course, you got your Atlanta fans there who love their other college teams. A lot of people that have moved from their college towns to do work and business in Atlanta. It's definitely way different than any other NFL city, just based on that dynamic alone, much like what you were saying, and the transplant element as well.
Be honest with me now. I'm a little over the hill. Can you still go to Buckhead and get drunk, or does it not exist anymore?
Yeah, you can find some stats. There's definitely some stats for the. You know what's funny is that when I graduated college, I went to the University of Georgia. Buckhead had this place, East Andrews. It was kind of the young, recently graduated college area. That whole area is gone. So I honestly don't know where the 20 to 30 somethings go, but you can still find places in Buckhead.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't, no one talks about Buckhead anymore. Then I Googled it, and they're like, they shut it down like 15 years ago. It's gentrified. And I'm like, it was gentrified with people puking out in the road at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I could see that they don't want that sort of element there anymore. Jason Butt is here. He is Jason H. Butt. You can find him out at The Athletic and The Athletic ATL. All of our WNST coverage brought to you by our friends at the Model Lyric. Check out their website to find out all the stuff that's going on. But let me start with this. The Kansas show has been moved to March 1st, and I know we had some of the guys on, so the Point of No Return returns on March 1st, so we'll be there for that. Charlie Brown Christmas next week. Got the Beach Boys in this week as well. John Mellencamp, Joe Bonamassa next year, and the Dancing with the Stars troupe on January 10th. Even JoJo Siwa, who I had on the show at the Super Bowl, the Nickelodeon star, she's coming to the Model Lyric. There's always magic at the Model Lyric. Learn more at model-lyric.com. Also, our friends at Sporticulture sending the beautiful flowers around me in the WNST studios. They are a click away and a great, great gift during the holidays. Sporticulture.com. If your friend's a UGA fan, they'll send you Georgia flowers. It's lovely. Jason H. Butt's the way to find him out on Twitter. All right, last thing for you here on the Atlanta thing, because I know what a varied sports fan you are. The new Braves Stadium, while I'm on it, I'm not going to get up there, and we have our own problems with baseball here and the rebuild, nobody going to the games, and people afraid of coming downtown and being a part of all that. Atlanta is really sort of the model for what Baltimore would have to become if the Orioles ever moved to the suburbs here. And, people can poo-poo that and laugh at that, but the Falcons moved their whole act out to the Beltway. I can't imagine Baltimore County or Anne Arundel County or, Howard County footing an $800 million bill or putting together a $3 billion project, but they've done that in Atlanta, and it really helps when your team wins quickly, right? But you're there, you're in the middle of all this, and you would agree baseball's still alive in Atlanta. It's dead on arrival in Baltimore, Jay.
Well, it's funny because, like you said, winning cures all. I think a lot of people are very happy all of a sudden and are very okay with the stadium. But I can remember just a few years ago when Cobb County and the Braves were engaging in backroom deals and keeping everything from the public and basically sticking Cobb County with a bunch of tax hikes and stuff like that to pay for the stadium without anybody knowing. There was never anything out in the open. It was all behind closed doors. The next thing you know, the team is leaving Atlanta, and Kasim Reed, the former mayor, didn't really make a hard enough push to keep the Braves because I think he always figured that the Braves would never leave, and then they called his bluff and actually left. And I mean, it was a total mess for a good couple of years, and then when they were constructing the stadium, it was a mess. Hopefully, if it did come to something like that in Baltimore, they wouldn't try to hide it from the public and go the corruption route. But of course, all of a sudden, they stayed on track when it came to when they blew up the team and wanted to rebuild. 2018, 2019 were always the years where it seemed like the Braves were targeted to kind of see that resurgence, and they obviously met it this past year in 2018. Had a really good season, and it helps when you have a guy like Ronald Acuna. And but winning, nobody's talking about the shady tactics that led to the new stadium. Everybody's just talking about the excitement of this Braves franchise, and it still has its problems. I mean, traffic is terrible on game days, getting out there, and given that Atlanta traffic's one of the worst in the entire country. But
I'm looking forward to avoiding it. I will be riding the MARTA.
Yeah, smart, very smart.
Smarta, MARTA.
but yeah, so it is amazing. Like you said, like I said, winning will mask almost anything, and for the Braves to be able to have this type of season. It's really, really kind of it's simplified things. People are more and more focused. And Atlanta's a very negative sports town, considering that the only pro sports championship has been the Braves in '95. And granted that Atlanta United has a ton of fans, they fill up the stadium. It still won't be seen as a big deal if they wind up winning the MLS Cup. In the grand scheme of things. It'll still be considered a very negative town. 28-3 is something people still gripe about, which is understandably so. So considering that, I think the Braves having the promising year that it did, that's something that's a little bit of positivity that these fans have been able to cling toward, which has been able to put the whole corruption angle aside when it comes to that stadium. And I believe I can't remember his name, but the main state congressman who kind of set up the backroom deal, I believe he was actually voted out a couple of years ago. So they actually did fix that problem when it came to the whole backroom deal.
Jay, when you talk about shady backroom dealings, and I'm thinking, man, the Angelos family will be involved in wherever the next lease comes from for the Orioles, and I'm thinking, I can't imagine,
Right.
Hey, dude, towel off, rest up. If you got a restaurant recommendation or someplace I got to hit, I got 36 hours in Atlanta, GA, so I'm looking forward to it. And man, I was down there at 15. I've been coming to Atlanta, like I said, all my life. I used to go down there all the time, and it's been like 3.5 years, and I mean 2 new stadiums and a remodeled arena and Elton John in town, and I hope the MARTA at Buckhead's boarded up. I mean, hell, it's like I'm not going to recognize it when I get down there. I hope the beer's still cold and the peaches still are ripe. So that's all I can hope for, and I hope the football team's bad. We need to win this game. So
yeah, if y'all get a win, y'all be in good shape.
Always a pleasure, man. Keep up the great work at The Athletic. I appreciate you making some time. Great having you on, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, man. It's good catching up with you.
Jason H. Butt, that's 2 T's, out on Twitter and at The Athletic ATL. He covered the Ravens for a period of time in a world long time ago. He's been covering Georgia sports down there and now with The Athletic, doing a great job. Follow him at Jason H. Butt with 2 T's at his golf club. Out on Twitter. You can find me out in the bayou, Toyota.com, Audio Vault, 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. The morning newspaper ships digitally directly to your email inbox. That happens at 7:01 every morning. It's all brought to you by our friends at Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. $5 down, $10 a month. Get in the best shape of your life. Get inside, judgment-free, the lunk alarm, and they're always there to help you. Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. Also, the Maryland Jockey Club bringing the morning newspaper to you with the entries there. The entries out on the front of WNST.net and the remodeled, beautiful sports bar down at Laurel Park. Make sure you get inside. Check out some college football down there on the weekends. Pro on Sunday. Go down and bet the ponies at Laurel Park. Last but never least, the Orioles will hire a manager. When they do so, you'll get it first on the WNST Tech Service. That's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis Kolatzos will be here on Thursday from 3 until 5, driving you home. It is the SSV on WNST. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.